So if you have a question, please put it in the chat, and I will start at the top. If you have a question specifically for Michelle on any of the things that she did when she was writing her application, please feel free to ask her. If I don't have the answer, because sometimes in life you just don't have the answer right away, I will make sure that I will email you back. I will put in my personal email at work. So if you would like to reach out to me, you're more than welcome to. So from Ted, I understand the social aspect of this initiative. What is the social finance aspect? So that's a great question. Social finance, it would be getting an investment for your social purpose organization it could be in a loan or an equity, like in a normal loan or equity that you get from the bank or an investor, but it has a social purpose behind it. It would be considered friendly money. So you may not have a major return that you would get from the bank. It would be a little bit less than that because we want you to be able to do this work. And you would be having some kind of social, cultural, or environmental impact within the community that you are serving, and you'd be addressing, in this case, addressing a local need. This is gonna be hard. Whenever there's another question, it goes down, so I have to scroll back up. Sorry about that. Can you tell us more about supports available for applications by Black-led organizations? That's a great question, Jackie. Thank you. At the moment, I'm not aware of any specific supports that are coming from CFC. I will actually, Valentina, if you can write that question down, we can definitely reach out to them and see if there's anything additional. I am more than happy to meet with someone, and when I say meet, I mean like Zoom or phone call, to talk about their application and to help in any way that we can. I'm doing that throughout, and I would be more than happy to do that for any Black-led organization as well. But if there is any very specific supports, I'm not aware of them at the moment.
I can see the question on the chat, so if Jackie can send it. Maybe she sent it privately to you, but I can see it.
Oh, yes, it did. Yeah. Okay. Is there any supports available for applications by Black-led organizations? The next question comes from Court. Is there a maximum amount you can apply for from the upcoming Social Finance Fund? For the Social Finance Fund, I'm not entirely sure. From the IRP fund, so this is actually a really important thing I'm going to address. They say the applications can range from 10,000 to 100,000. I would highly recommend going lower. So our average grant size from the first round was between 20 and 25,000. If you stuck around that $20,000 to $30,000 mark, that would be more appropriate. We received roughly $350,000 for the disbursement between the two rounds for Waterloo Region, Guelph, Center Wellington, Stratford, Perth. And we had to split that between those two rounds. So we have approximately $200,000 remaining. So we want to be able to support as many organizations as possible, or many applicants, sorry, as possible. So with that being said, if you are applying for $100,000, it just probably, I mean, it could get funded. I'm not saying it won't, but it's very difficult to be able to support that when there are 10 applications asking for about $20,000 that are just equally as phenomenal. So they would probably outweigh that one. We have an online software that helps organizations manage their environmental, social governance risks. Looking at the previous grantees, I don't see many tech or software companies. Would you say that this program is more focused towards grassroots level organizations? Thank you for asking that question. I'd actually say it wouldn't be focused towards grassroots led organizations. It's not focused towards either or. It could, there were some very established charitable partners that received funding. There was an established co-op that received funding, and there was one social enterprise, and I'm not sure how long they've been around for, but they do some tech innovation as well, I think, with regards to the homeless. So it doesn't have to be grassroots. I think it's just that it's the concept that you are applying for, that it's clear that we need this funding here in order to be able to apply for a social impact investment down the road. That is the most important thing, saying, being able to articulate this funding will help us get our social impact investment request down the road available, like unlock that potential. And in some cases, I think we saw a lot of applications that were already ready for a social impact investment. And they didn't really need this funding. They could have just gone and got a loan from some social finance provider. In the spring round of applications, what was the average amount awarded or granted? I said around 20 to 25,000. I know, are there guidelines or resources around figuring out the proper measurements for your social purpose endeavor? Are there guidelines or resources? Rebecca, what do you mean by that? Can you unmute yourself?
Absolutely. Hi. Yeah, so what I was just wondering was, as you're looking at reporting and as you're looking at measuring the impact of your social endeavor, did you have, or do you know of resources that are around that people could tap into to kind of guide you as you're building out how to properly report on your impact?
I would say that would be an excellent thing to add part of your, saying you're trying to research your impact in this part of the IRP for your future social impact investment. That could be something that you could be doing, like adding into your application. If you are trying to, Anne Lavender, who's on the call, do you know of any organizations off the top of your head that can help measure your social purpose impact at all? I don't know if Anne can unmute herself. Anne, you're still on mute.
Hi, sorry. My screen froze for a bit there. I couldn't hear what you were saying, Sarah.
The question is, are there guides or resources around figuring out the purpose measurements for your social purpose endeavor? And so Rebecca was wondering if there are any options to help you figure out the measurement of your impact in the community. I can think of a few, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the purpose of this funding is to help folks who are wanting to develop a social enterprise to do the research into whether or not what their idea is feasible, and how to go about that is really part of the research phase, and the funding. Some of this funding could be used for that. Yeah. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Rebecca, if you have any more questions about that, feel free to email me and I'm more than happy to talk to you on the phone and we can hash that out. Will you share the slide deck with all the attendees? So we've actually been recording this, so it will be available online, and we have another one of these sessions on the 15th, and that too will be recorded. Just posting their own version of this. The only thing that they wouldn't do would have any local context, because last time they did it in before the round one, they had 1,400 people on their webinar. So it would be quite broad, where if you had a very specific question about this catchment area, we'd be more than happy to try and answer that specifically. Is there any other questions that I'm not seeing here right now? Does anybody have any questions for Michelle at all? So I'm just going to give you a couple. So I talk on the phone pretty much daily to people who are interested in applying to this this fund on this opportunity. One of the things I want to share, if you're having a hard time understanding what this funding is for, please talk to me. I don't want you to waste your time trying to write an application that may not fit. And it'd be better for us to figure out, what are you using this money for to help you get ready for an investment? That seems to be, I know I keep saying that over and over again, but that seems to be the biggest challenge that people have to try and understand. So whether it's research, like Elizabeth kind of mentioned a bunch of different things that were on the slides, research or governance, or you need a project management for something in order to get ready. Whatever that is, in order for you to be able to go, think of like you have to go to the Dragon's Den and deliver a pitch to try and get some kind of investment. We're trying to help you with some funding to get you ready to go and have a really good pitch in front of them. So, I mean, that's like just my random example off the top of my head. And this is not Dragon's Den. I just wanted to say all those things. But this is to help you get ready for that social impact investment. And the social impact investment has to have some kind of sale of goods or services. So if you don't have an idea of what you're actually going to sell or the service that you are going to generate money, then that you need to think that one through. And this may not be the right grant stream for you. The other thing I would like to share, I had it in my head just a second ago. I would say, if people have asked me often, what types of organizations or applicants were the ones who got funding, and there wasn't any magic sauce other than they had shown that they were having a strong impact in their local community to a local need. So they were addressing something that was an issue within the community. We aren't ranking needs, but we definitely know the needs that are within the local communities. And the people who are on the review committee for this are represented from all the different regions that we are supporting. And so they know what each of those areas are in need of. And so one of the things I would say is the work that you're trying to do actually addressing something that is important within the community? I have a couple more questions. Is there an expectation, i.e. reported follow-up, about how the organization accesses the Social Finance Fund after being granted the Readiness Fund? So that's a great question. I don't know. I think that it is fair to say that if you are successful here and you are trying to do a feasibility study with the funding that you received, and that feasibility study said you can't do what you intended to do and you could do this, that's okay. That's what this money is for. It's to try and help you have the best foot forward. If it actually says the market is saturated and what you're trying to do just won't fit, I mean, that's okay too. We're not going to force you into some kind of social finance fund, and we're not going to, I don't believe we'll be checking up on you. I personally won't be. I don't know if the Community Foundations of Canada might not just reach back to see what's been the result of that. But I think if you are interested in funding here, you have a reason for a social impact investment down the future. Could this money be used to research whether a for-profit social enterprise, considering if they should become a not-for-profit or a charity? No, I would say no. And the reason why is because there's no sale or good, like there's no reason for social impact investment for that. The social impact investment is not for startup costs, like down the road. Like it would not be for you saying, I want to start an enterprise or start a charity. It's to start some kind of social purpose enterprise that will have some kind of sale or service that you are able, some goods or service that you're able to sell that will generate income to do other things. And is that fair to say? Okay.
Yes, I would say that's fair to say. And in fact, it could actually work the other way, right? Where where a charity is thinking about starting a social enterprise or becoming a social enterprise through the sale of goods or services, rather than staying a charity, or maybe adding to what they're already doing, but not the other way around.
Right. One example that I always use is there was a successful applicant in the first round, and it was very clear cut. They are a charitable organization that serves children and youth, and they have property where they would like to build affordable housing. And that affordable housing will generate revenue, which will then be able to support the work that they do within their charity. So the money for the IRP is to do basically project management of determining any zoning bylaws or any of the work they need to do in order to access a loan for building this affordable housing. Is there a timeline when you apply for the social impact investment after you receive the Readiness Fund? All I know is that the funding has to be used, or I think the funding has to be used by June. I'm going to double check on that one. Hold on, I have it probably right here, but I'm not going to go through my papers right now in front of you. The funding will go out in January, February, and I believe that the funding has to be used within 2021, but I don't know the deadline of it. As Elizabeth mentioned they haven't released when the $755 million social finance fund will be available. And it's something you should be aware is that if you don't receive Investment Readiness Program funding, you can still apply for the social finance fund down the road. Just because you didn't get money here doesn't mean you're only the successful people here can go apply for funding there. And it's another thing should be noted. This is a very, very competitive fund. Across Canada, it was a 19% success rate. They had over 1,300 applicants and about 290 or 270 actually received funding. Locally, we had a 17% success rate. So I just want you to know it is highly competitive, the applications that came in. I don't understand how in Michelle's example, the services they provide are income generating. Michelle, that would be great. Please.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So currently, that's why we're looking for this assistant. It's not. So we are out in the community. We have some funding from the Region of Waterloo Public Health to run this, call it baby program, the WINS program. But the need is so much greater in terms of like people finding things on pathways and in public areas where, we shouldn't have discarded needle litter, etc. So our hope is that if with the correct organization and funding, that we would be able to provide that service for a fee, meaning that if someone says, look, I've just bought a perfect example is a landlord, for instance, who has a tenant that has vacated, and now the room that has been vacated, or the apartment has been vacated, has a lot of needle litter, etc. And in general, then they will have to call a biohazard company to come and get rid of that, and they charge exorbitant prices to do that. So what we're thinking is if we were to be able to provide that service, and it would be a fee for service for someone to call up our team, and then they will go out and retrieve and clean up the space, that kind of thing.
And then that would help generate funding for the rest of your organization.
Correct. And then the other part would be, again, the de-escalation training and the training that would go around dealing with folks that use drugs and dealing with folks with mental health and addiction issues to organizations in terms of training them to deal with encounters or to deal with things in their organization or on their property for that. And that would be a fee for service kind of thing.